Now I'm gonna crack one code in the linguistics, and that code is the matrix, right? Just a matrix. Okay, what is a matrix? Because again, as I said, it's not the movie that Keanu Reeves is starring in. However, when that becomes the overriding for most people's consciousness, they automatically associate the matrix itself to actually that pattern that you now see when you type in matrix pattern inside of Google. You get the matrix code, right? Which is numbers. Actually, it's a different language, but it's dripping down. And sometimes it's zeros and ones. It depends on which one you download. But it's saying, okay, there's this code and it's green and it feels really computer-like. And that's really what people think of the matrix is now. So when we talk about the matrix, then from there, people think, oh, the fake matrix. And they start basically beefing with the matrix. They think that we're talking about the one on the movie that there's Smith and all of them in. When really all that is a distortion. The real matrix that's being referred to is actually the matrix or the mistress, okay? Because these are all the same words. So let's take a look at that really briefly here. And here we go. So this is a matrix, okay? Now, math is ma'at. Okay, we already cracked that code. And we know that ma'at is what in Kemet was the highest form of spiritual study, period. It was exact. Weights and measures was used. That's why they show you there's a scale. It was exact. So it's saying that there's this exact laws, and even on a weight in a scale level, they're perfect. Do you know those laws? Because all other laws, according to what our ancestors were saying, everything else is just a derivative of that. And sometimes it's even when it's plagiarized, it's distorted to give power to whoever the plagiarizer is. So we have an archetype known as the Yaldabaoth archetype. And this archetype basically steals knowledge that doesn't belong to it as if it is that it belongs to it. And then it goes forward to everyone like it's their knowledge when it really came from somewhere else. And also, more importantly, it belongs to all of us. What we're seeing is top left. We're going to start on the top left. This is a cymatic that was exported from our cymatic software. Now, still to this day, we are the only ones that actually have gone into creating an actual software where people can put in a number and see the pattern of that number. So there's no research, public research or tools in this field that we're going to be talking about today. It's study in the inner sanctums for sure. And it's also studying in things like electronics because you need metamaterials, you need antenna magic, you need brainwave handshakes or computer brain handshakes. You need different things like Neuralink. So you need to know this stuff, but this is not stuff that's just in your published paper, even at MIT, even at Yale. So when it comes to teaching the highest levels of knowledge, that's just not where they're at. And they're not also doing it in a way that's applicable for people in 2021. Yo, give me the lowdown on what exactly is going on. This is a matrix. Now, this on the left side, as we talk about in the top corner, is a number. Okay, it's a number. We put a number in, we hit enter, and this pattern comes up on that number. Now, you'll notice with octaves, you'll start seeing the same patterns appear. There's a language of basically about 9 to 12 different shapes, and all other shapes as you go up the frequencies are created from that. Now, what does that tell you? What that tells you is that there's only really a certain amount of templates here, and then what other things really are just those templates either mixed in different formulas or appearing larger or smaller than the current space or frequency that you're in. And then when that happens to you, you may not recognize it as you're trying to gain perspective of what you're looking at, right? So on the top left, that is a number. So now this next to it, because you may say, well, what's this next picture? It's not beautiful. What is it? It's called a matrix. Or matrix. It is the same concept. And the concept here is just like embroidering, wherever sound intersects, which is called the horizontal and the vertical waters by our ancestors, there is life. Okay? So if you notice, let me just pull this down really quickly here. So if you see on the right side, that's inside of a torus field. Okay? And inside of the torus field, you notice how there are these little points. So true enough, a lot of this, there's really nothing, even though nothing is something. But in a lot of this, there's really nothing. But in those points, there is something, because something is created when two opposing forces interact with each other, or when we collide. And when we collide, the essence that comes off of us becomes the sediment to the spaces that other beings are now existing on. Let me rewind. So Earth, as we know it, which is in the mind, is basically an accumulation. All of what we're standing on is an accumulation. Dust is a mystical word. Dust is an accumulation. It's what comes off of things when it collides with another particle. And it may be so small, you never see it. But once that smallness starts to accumulate, it becomes big. And then it becomes the rock or the stone or the bone. Okay? Stone and bones. Etymology tells you the framework is an accumulation. Calcium is an accumulation. Pyramids were coated with calcium. It's accumulation. It's all symbolic. So accumulation basically is that when those horizontal and vertical waters meet, that's where life is found. Okay? So this means that over at NASA, if they ever wanted to find life, which they've definitely done already, all they have to do is map the vector on the torsion field that you see my picture over and know what the next space over is, where the crossing point is, and you're guaranteed to go there and find life, because that's how life is created. And every time those points collide, they create an orb, right? So that flat earth thing, it's still a psyop. I'm going to bang on y'all every time. If you don't know basic geometry, you will believe in something like that. But truthfully, when energy collides, it creates an orb. The orb is its mold. It actually has to do with phi. We create orbs or circles because mathematics makes it that way. All of the entire field inside of this mind, where the wind, which is your thoughts, where you don't know where it comes and it goes, this is the mechanics of how a matrix actually works, or a matrix. Now, a matrix, she has lattice. Lattice is like lace. If you look at lace, lace is lattice work. Okay. What is this? Like embroidery. As you see my other picture here, a magic carpet, right? The embroidery of horizontal and vertical stitching of different colors, different spectrums, different frequencies. When I need a distorted color, I go and get a dummy to crash dummy and explode against something and bring back that distorted octave and paint with that. You see what I mean? When I need a perfect harmonically hue color, I go into what's closest to the unified field, and I take that color and I paint with that. See, what's happening here in existence is everyone's given this opportunity to paint, but everyone else is trying to look over their shoulder and tell them how ugly their picture is, or whether they like it or not. And that means also two things are going on. One, the person's not painting themselves. And two, they're disturbing the being that is painting. So I reckon, even though there's a lot of things that we're learning from this space, that it's very clear to me also that it seems that we created this space as somewhat of a challenge, where actually, until we get into alignment and learn the universal law, we at times become the challenge for each other, arguing, fighting, all the things that create the distortion of going external to not be able to weave your own internal magical carpet, which is your vehicle, where you would be able to fly anywhere. So while the finite seems so appealing, it's like a hotel room that's cheap with the light on, the infinite is far more appealing because it doesn't have the drawback of an end, of fear, and even pain when you understand what's going on with your consciousness. So let's keep going. So now we've identified then that this matrix then is the matrix. And even the two wings on my at is a torus field. It's the same thing in the picture above it. But to fools, this is nothing. On the bottom of the left, that is a matrix. That is the numerical expression of a code that creates a grid. We can type that in a computer and it will actually create a pattern or a grid. So some miss that jump. They're like, well, wait a minute, that's technology though. Here we go with the fake thing. No, technology is a plagiarization. There is nothing new in this mind yet. See, when you begin to think beyond the mind, that's called thinking beyond the box. We've talked about this before in the universal blueprint. So the box is the containment. It's where fire, earth, wind, water must be contained. Like your body is the box. Fire, earth, wind, water must be contained. It's a vessel to hold the power, or else your power would just drift off into something else. So now you're starting to see the purpose of having different frequencies then. Because if everything's just the same frequency, it just all melds in together and it doesn't become aware. It doesn't have a name. It doesn't have anything. There is a space like that. We call it the unmovable. Here, if it could be named, which it means if it could be numbered, it could be controlled. Most importantly, it can be controlled through oneself. See, sometimes we think control, that's what they're doing. They're trying to control the entire reality. And we're going outside again. When really what this knowledge is about is saying, hey, because you're fire, earth, wind, water, actually all the elements on the periodic table, if you learn how to tune into them inside of you, you can pull that string inside of you and it will create external phenomena. Get to work. You got a whole periodic table of elements in front of you. Before, for our ancestors, there was just 4. We've complicated things a bit more. Now we have to climb the ladder back up. This is the dinonucleic ladder of all of these different elements and how they feel, not just what they mean to the brain,